Hello, elegant listeners, and welcome to Go, my favorite sports team. Today is yet again an incredibly special episode, as we have the Lurch here with us, coming in, having played for the Minnesota Twins, the New York Mets, and the Oakland Athletics. Content creator, YouTuber, TTRPG, fantastical human being extraordinaire, Trevor May is in the house, everybody.
Wow. The Lurch. Thank you. I didn't think that you'd find that one. Yep, that was a nick and one of my many. But it's good to be here. I'm excited, man. I'm a big fan of the show. Big fan of you guys.
No, seriously. Ever since we did the TTRPG holiday special over on Forgotten Paths with Noah and Paul and Diana, I literally have been like, yo, we need to actually do an episode. And it completely blanked from my mind. I've been so busy.
I hear that, man.
Sure enough, I follow you on TikTok and talking about the salary cap and how the Dodgers have been spending and how other owners are getting mad because they're not spending in the same way. And so it might lead to a Major League Baseball lockout this year, as well as a number of different things from the fan base saying it's ruining baseball and all these different things that are being thrown out there. So figured it'd be a great time to talk about it with spring training coming up and a potential lockout in the future.
Yeah, that'd be a great time. This is a subject that I am very passionate about. A little background on it. My dad was the head of his, he was a chemical worker for 32 years. He was the head of the union for like 25 of those 32. I grew up hearing about labor negotiations way more than I should, than a 12-year-old should. Like I've always just been on this, on that side. And then I became a member myself and watched it happen again. So it's something that I've paid close attention to, against my will when I was a kid, but it's something he instilled in me. So yeah, I'm coming from a fairly strong background of that stuff.
For sure. So before we get into it, you want to list some of your accolades and stuff that you did as a player to give people just a little bit of insight as to why you're on the show and have a perspective that otherwise other people wouldn't have. Most people come in as just a fan and have never worked in Major League Baseball in any capacity, either in the front office or on the player side. So go ahead and give them that info.
So I was drafted out of high school in 2008, and then I played professional baseball for 16 years, 10 of which were in the major leagues. I was a team rep for the Twins for a couple years and was always and that is for the union. I was always very engaged in that stuff. Anyways, how it kind of works is they just kind of keep you updated as you go. Most guys, 95% of guys are just not engaged at all. Then 5% of the guys try to inform the other 95. So that is kind of, I'm very dialed in, not just to that spot, not even just playing. Most guys who play don't know as much as I do about this stuff. So it is an interest of mine. But yeah, I played for 10 years in the majors. I was in the majors for the COVID season and the negotiations that happened there, and then the 2022 lockout and negotiations that happened there. And I still regular in contact with a lot of the guys, a lot of the people in the union that are still doing it. So it's a subject I know a lot about, but also just I was in major clubhouses for over a decade. So I've thrown quite a few balls in my life, if that makes sense.
You've also hit a few dingers recently. You're hitting some dingers in a major league ballpark.
A couple, not a few. Two is a couple.
Hey, all right.
I did get them.
Well, how many pitches did it take for the first one? Because in the video I saw, it was the second pitch. I don't know if that was true or not, but...
Spoilers. Go watch the video even if you listen to this, and if you don't, we will find you.
It was the second pitch in the second round. So we did a first round, which was timed, and then it had outs at the end, which I did that because we only had so many balls, right? We were using a special ball that Will Taylor from the Bat Bros has as like merch, and they're like home run balls. They're like meant to go farther. And we only had so many of those that they brought from Bend to San Francisco. So we're going to be able to like hit batting practice and warm up before. We were just going to be able to take our swings, take like 5 swings and then just go. And I need way more than that. So I put a timed round at the beginning. And so we just had to, for 2 minutes, you just had to swing as much as you could. And that was basically for a warm up. I didn't think that many guys would hit many homers. It turns out John, the young brother, Don Taylor, hit 8 in the first round in the timed round. So I'm like, well, okay, he's a professional too. He's 23 and he plays minor league baseball now. So he was probably well positioned, but I had to warm up. And once I got warmed up, and then I swung a bunch while the other guys were swinging their first round. But the first round was rough. And then second round, I got close 2 more other times. So almost You only got 10 total outs, and I hit 2 homers, and that was kind of it. Sorry to ruin the video. I would highly recommend you go watch it, though, still. It is fun, and I worked very hard on that edit, so please go watch it.
Editors put spoilers beforehand and say, go watch the video even if you listen to this, and if you don't, we will find you.
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
There you go. So the reason I brought you on today is we're talking about the collective bargaining agreement and the pay issue that's coming up, especially with how much the Dodgers ownership has been spending over the years, starting going way back to the 10-year, $700 million contract for Ohtani, Mookie Betts with the 12-year, $365 million extension in 2020, and then Kyle Tucker recently signed for $240 million for 4 years, and they're spending $2.1 billion in guaranteed salaries, which is nearly $800 more than the next team in the San Diego Padres at $1.3 billion. Obviously, the Dodgers have been highly successful, having the most famous player across the globe in baseball right now in Ohtani. A lot of conversation has been about salary cap, and this isn't a new conversation because we know the NFL, the professional leagues, have salary cap. I believe NBA, almost every other professional organization has a salary cap based on team salaries. The interesting part about that, and it was conversations came to mind about who benefits ultimately from a salary cap, because we look at the NBA and everybody has the same salary cap, but the Sacramento Kings have been awful year after year after year. So there's no guarantee that a salary cap makes for an even playing field, period. Who are the biggest winners if a salary cap is enabled, in your mind?
In baseball, because there will be a floor. We got to set that. And whenever a cap is said, assume there's also a floor attached. There is no cap that doesn't have a floor, which many believe that will raise the need for teams to, like the Pirates, to actually hit a level before they're penalized or get in trouble and spend some money. And that is a big problem in baseball as well, as the teams that don't spend. So, but what they believe that what they are saying, they being the ownership and the league, which is the ownership, made up of 30 owners, and then the commissioner is kind of their mouthpiece. Basically, what they're saying it will do is the league's just becoming uncompetitive because the Dodgers are spending so much money. There is a level of truth. I mean, I think it's not as correlative in baseball as it is in other sports because there's so many players and players have such a low impact on each game no matter what you do, even with Shohei Ohtani. And not like basketball where one guy can score all of your points. That's not possible in baseball. And people say soccer a lot too. There's guys that score half their team's goals for the season in soccer. Like that's a big value. So there's a little bit of that, but like they believe that like we need to rein in the Dodgers. So they say they're mad the teams that don't spend as much, but they also kind of like that now they can make this case. But the reality is the thing that is the most enticing about salary cap, and this isn't really like debatable. They won't say this, but this is what's going on. It's franchise values, and baseball franchise values, how much a team is worth, has just gone up way slower than all the other leagues because of uncertainty. The reason the other leagues can get huge valuations is because they know what they're going to have to spend on salary. They know what their expenses are going to be year in, year out. They can say with pretty good accuracy and project years in the future because it's not going to change that much. In baseball, you can't. You actually don't know until the next offseason, really. Like your salary could go from 80 million to 160 million one year after another, and that could greatly change your franchise value. So like banks just don't touch them. Like they just can't. They're all conservative. Now we have cord cutting, as anyone who listens to this pod very well knows probably, is that like all these networks are fighting for sports rights. All the regional networks is what baseball's depended on forever. They're going away more so than the other sports. Like they weren't ever regional. With the regional sports networks going away, that's most of the revenue for every team. That's scary. So now we have that uncertainty of revenues coming in, and then we have uncertainty around expenses. So it's hurting their ability to get higher franchise values even more than it did before. And they want franchise value so that they can borrow money for their other things they do, because they're all billionaires. They all own other things on their franchises. That's why they own a baseball team, is so they can say, look how cool this thing is. Give me money that I can use on other things using that as collateral. And when that number doesn't go up very fast, that's frustrating when you can't depend on revenue. So it's one or the other. You want franchise values or revenues. And they don't feel like they're getting both. And they do have a point that is real, but that is what they want. Like parity's not really a thing that seems to be affected that much by these mechanics, just because baseball's had just as much parity as any other sport. If you look at the last 50 years, it just even more so than most teams, most leagues. It doesn't have that big of an effect, not as big of an effect as they say it does. But that's really where they're coming from.
Yeah, and I know a lot of movement in Major League Baseball rule changes have been to make it more fit for TV. I mean, we have the pitch clock, the fact that we don't have the crazy length of extra innings, but we still get them. So you have the runner on second after the first extra inning is completed. So somebody's in scoring position, so the likelihood of scoring is increased. So there's a lot of things that have been put in place in order to speed up the game for the TV perspective, which unfortunately for me as a huge baseball fan growing up my whole life, it does negatively impact the in-person experience in my opinion, because I can't walk around and like spend a whole day at the ballpark now. I'm only there for like 2 hours, especially if runs aren't scored. My friend just hosted a pre-party for his wedding at the Red Stadium, and it was the game that they won 1-0. They rented a suite, and it was the worst time to rent a suite because it was the fastest game played that season, period. And the thing is, ticket values haven't gone down to relate to a lesser length of an experience.
Yeah, well, don't count on that ever happening.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, you're looking at these different things. And the other thing that I heard, and I don't know if this is necessarily true, was that in Major League Baseball, ticket sales and stuff go straight to the team that they're bought from. There's not as much of a collective that's pulled from. Like the NFL, all of the revenue is shared and then spread across everybody. That is not the case in Major League Baseball. You get what you get, and the owners pull from what they're able to provide. It's an incentive to put a good team on the field because then you're going to attract more fans. There's an incentive to be in a bigger market because that's going to attract more fans. We talk about the Oakland A's that are now moving to Las Vegas. They're currently temporarily in Sacramento, which, by the way, that stadium is hilarious for a Major League ballpark, but the facilities, just looking at it, atrocious for the players.
Yeah,
like the difference between a minor league stadium and Major League stadium is significant.
Yeah, and it's not even that nice of a minor league stadium to begin with either. So it's like, yeah, it's tough. I've been there. It's not great.
As a person who used to pitch, looking at that mound, I had better mounds in high school that I pitched off of. So, and that might be the wear and tear because there's a lot more games played on it, but it was rough. And I could tell the grounds crew is doing their absolute best, but it just doesn't have the same quality and build. And so that's the biggest thing. When you get into a salary cap, then are they going to start rev sharing? Like, there's got to be a number of other things that have to play into this because, like you said, the billionaires benefit from this because they can then take a loan, which is tax-free, and their collateral is the stadium. So then they can go and buy other things, including potentially personal stuff that they don't really need. From that outlook, it's like the only thing this benefits is the owners, not necessarily the players. Is there a benefit for the players with the salary cap aside from the minimum spending limit?
I mean, in a vacuum, the minimum is helpful, depending on what rules are around the minimum. That always, like, people don't even know about all the side little rules that are in the NBA and in the NFL. And I'll just say this right now. People say this to me all the time, like, well, do like the NFL does. They're working great. No, you like the NFL. The NFL deal with the players is horrible for the players. They have a terrible deal. Terrible.
Oh, yeah.
It's awful. Not guaranteed contracts. They can find $50,000 for whatever Goodell wants to make it. That's why they don't complain about it, because they get fined. Like that Marshawn Lynch thing is real. No one talks about it. They hate it because they can't, because they're gagged. That's why.
The Alvin Kamara cleats thing. He wore the red and green cleats, and then he had a monster game. He got fined outrageously, and then the NFL Hall of Fame is like, yo, we want those cleats. And he's like, yeah, you can buy them off of me if you want them. You just fined me. You told me I couldn't wear the cleats, and now because I had a monster game, you're like, oh, these are cool. We should put them in the Hall of Fame. Like, that's so backwards. It's so messed up.
It is backwards, and they have tons and tons of issues already. You know, Jerry Jones loves it, guys, because he's got a $10.5 billion valuation on his team, but he has to spend over 210 on his team, which he gives half to Dax. Anyway, it's not working as well as you think it is. Love it because there's one game a week or 2 days a week you sit and watch it, and it's a national thing. But their game of football lines up that way. There can be that. There's 18 games each. There's only 18 weeks the teams are playing in, and all the teams are playing on one of 2 or 3 days. So, like, it's an event. Baseball plays every day. It's just different to do it that way. To bring it back to the question, the benefit to the players is, unless there is a massive overhaul, which there would have to be, by the way, of control over a player, the length of time you have control over a player, and anyone who doesn't know this, in the football, rookie contracts are 3 or 4 years.
With a 5th-year option. Yeah.
With a 5th-year option in baseball, there's 6, and there's no 6 or 7, depending on how much you got in the first year. And then when you're drafted, you go on a minor league deal to start. So there's minor leagues too that you have to work through, and that's 7 years. So a prime example I always use is Tyler Rogers just became a free agent for the first time. At 35 years old, he was a member of the San Francisco Giants for 13 years before he went to free agency. That is, I mean, those are rare that they used every day possible in his contract to keep control of him. But like, he couldn't negotiate a contract fully, like the full market as part of it for 13 years. And he was a senior sign out of college. So it just took forever to get up. And then he had to sit there and his clock started again. And that is why there is no cap. That is why there's always been no cap. No one ever really talks about this. I don't, the fact that you have control over a player for football, that's like 3 times as long as a football player. And the average length of a big league career is the same length as a football player, 3.5 years. The chances you get to free agency are low, and you only get to do it one time. And in football, you can do it more because they had to relinquish control to get a cap. That would have to change in baseball. That would be a benefit, I think, though, because guys are getting up younger. So they become free agents earlier in their career, and they get an option to do it a couple more times. Yes, the length of contracts gets smaller, but you'd still be able to make a choice and maybe make 2 big paydays instead of 1. And that's an issue that I think can be done well if the teams really want this and they're going to lock up no matter whether or not they get it or not. I think the players could really, really cut into that service time thing and get a lot of benefit that way and get a lot of guys paid earlier in their careers. That could be one benefit, but it has to be negotiated. It can't just be cap how it is now. It'd be devastating for players.
It kind of also explains why a lot of people will sign coming out of high school instead of going to college because of how long they have you tied in, that a lot of times you don't get your shot until you're years in, unless you're a first round guy that is absolutely incredible. For example, Paul Skeens for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, he came out of college and then was basically an immediate starter for the Pirates. Granted, I'll shit on him. The Pirates organization is horrendous in a lot of different ways. Also, and as a Reds fan, that organization starts more fights in ball stadiums than I've ever seen. And I don't know what's going on in-house with regard to how that is going, but I don't know if it's because the players are so disgruntled by how bad they're treated by the organization. But, like, I also respect the city of Pittsburgh because all of their teams are the same color, and that's just genius. But it absolutely baffles me because I imagine Skeens is not happy. The man pitches an incredible game and then loses.
Yeah, it's bad. You're hitting it on the head of the nail. They've had 2, so like Bob Nutting, I believe the owner, has owned the team since the late 90s, so almost 30 years now. And he's 2 different GMs, and they've been bad the whole time. So like, he doesn't make any changes either. He just says, oh, these are the guys I like. If you're not familiar with the Nutting family, they just own they just bought everyone's newspapers. They own like everyone's local newspaper. And it's like their portfolio. And then they just do nothing to make them better. And they just eat margins and then move on to the next one. And so it's just like plotting, just keep adding assets to the portfolio and keep extracting money out of them. And it's not like that's all it is. And so that's how he runs his baseball team. I don't want to say like, oh, he doesn't care. It's not that he doesn't care. He just sees it like a newspaper. He's not like, ooh, I want to go compete and win. He's not like, that's not the way he's done business either. It's there's some people like Steve Cohen who ran a hedge fund and had to like get hostile with a lot of people and literally just win. And then there's guys like Bob Nutting, who is 3rd generation owner of newspaper.
Or people like the Brown family and the Bengals, where their only business is literally the Bengals. As much as like you've got Joe Burrow, you've got Jamar Chase, you've got these great players, do they actually care about winning games or do they care about the bottom line? You saw how they treated Trey Hendrickson, far and away one of the best defensive players in the league. Granted, he didn't have a good year this past season because he got hurt, but I mean, that's just not how you treat people. You should reward people who ball out, especially when you promise them that you would give them a salary, and then you don't give them a salary and you treat them like shit. It's absolutely ridiculous as a Bengals fan. It upsets me so much because I see this in baseball with Pittsburgh. I see this on various other teams. I mean, the Sacramento Kings got new ownership and they started to do some stuff. The Reds finally got new ownership, which is under fire, but I think they're actually trying to do stuff. I mean, you have these owners that are all they care about is their money. If the owners are pushing for a salary cap, And if you actually know anything, and the good thing, like the funny thing is a lot of people in the fans think that it'll fix something. And I was guilty of this until I learned more and more about the business of sports as I got my master's degree, to then be like, oh, that's why it makes sense. Because you can literally be like, all right, this is how much we pay. This is how much our earnings are. So this is a good valuation. So then I can get a loan with this as collateral.
Yeah. It's about predictability, and if we've seen anything just in business in general. Maybe we're living in a time now where a lot of this stuff is pretty transparent at this point, that once you get a lot of money, you want to try to continue to keep the ecosystem so that you don't have to, so it's hard to lose for you now. Like once you win, you want to keep winning. And if you can make it so that the rules make that happen every time, then great. There's a little part of me like, that's understandable. It would be nice to not have to be like all the time, worry about things falling apart or whatever. And I will also say this, fans do have a point. Like the Dodgers just can't keep just spending into the oblivion either. Like there is a problem. It's not like there isn't one. There's some things that I think happened that it's kind of a perfect storm. Things that are allowing them to do that. For example, getting the greatest player we've seen maybe ever to take 95% of his contract deferred, and then bringing the entire country of Japan along with him. So like the payoff there is insane. And then everyone just followed him because there was still room to do it because he took such a pay cut. And he just so happened to play for the Angels before. So he loved LA, like the Los Angeles area. So all of those things kind of coalesced into this, and then they took advantage of it. So like, I don't blame anyone in the system for being mad about it, and the Dodgers for doing the thing too. They're also probably the best run organization as well. They didn't need to have all this money. They'd still be really good. It's just that now it's a luxury. So like there needs to be a change. And yes, Cincinnati Reds, they can't compete as it is now as much as people maybe believe, or at least the risk of like going and maybe like losing money for a year or two to do it is just too high because baseball's so unpredictable. It's too much risk. They don't want to take it. And then with the TV stuff, especially with the mid-sized teams, it's like now it's just not tenable at all. Even though they're still probably making profit, probably not a ton of profit. And you got to remember, they think of profit differently than we do. We believe that if you make 1% more money than you spend, that's a profit. That is not profit for a billionaire. That's not. That is losing money because there's other things moving pieces. They've already used creative accounting to set it up a bunch of other places, and now that might be called somewhere else where they needed that money to move it over there, and now they're not making money. But they're not going to tell you about that because they know the public won't like that, and that's why they never open their books, because we wouldn't like to see how much they're wheeling and dealing with the collateral for the team that they're supposed to love. That's just the way that it is. But there is changes that need to be made. I fully agree with that. I just think that you hit it. You nailed it. The cap doesn't solve the problem in the way that it seems like it does in the face. It's a much more complex problem, and they know that. They also are very good at telling you the thing that sounds obvious. It's just not that obvious. Like the thing, you'd still feel the same things that you're feeling now if that happened. Maybe the Dodgers thing, like, haha, Dodgers, and then you're like, oh wait, we're still the same. At that point, it's just there's less money total being spent, and someone's got to spend it. You know what I mean? Someone's got to spend some money.
The owner of the Dodgers is actively like, he's going to make money simply because of the market that LA has, the fact that they have hit the international market so well. Like you said, it's a perfect storm. The location is closest to Japan. It's the media center of the United States. Like the only other places that kind of compete are like New York's of the world, like media center, food availability, a lot of those different things. So it makes sense that Ohtani would kind of want to stay in the LA area because of proximity, as well as media to be able to send it to fans.
And it's beautiful all the time. That's kind of nice too.
We can talk about that in baseball, like cold games in baseball. I don't know about you, but when I played baseball, when it was hotter out, I played better.
Oh yeah. Cold baseball sucks.
Oh my God. I mean, the vibration of the bat hurts your hands when it's cold. The ball doesn't fly as far.
You advantage pitcher, but you also can't feel. You can't feel the ball either. So all you have to do is throw it to the plane. Guys are just hitting grounders and just trying to get the game over with. So the advantage was always in our way. But yeah, cold baseball. I played Minnesota, man. We got snowed out one time for 2 weeks.
I grew up in Cincinnati playing cold baseball. The hot summers when it was humid was fine. I'd be sweating like crazy. But living in LA now for like the last decade, if I was in LA and I played baseball in LA, I don't think I would have stopped playing baseball.
Yeah, that probably not. There's lots of people still playing.
Because I could go out and throw baseball all year.
It must be awesome.
So, but I mean, there's a lot of different things that play into this. I mean, we talked about a lot of different brands that exist and things within that. But what is stopping other owners from doing what the Dodgers do, aside from the fact that, like you said, they would potentially be losing money? But if they can increase the market share that they have media-wise, like I know Ellie De La Cruz just declined the offer from the Reds, even though it was a substantial offer. What's to say that another team couldn't do what the Dodgers are doing right now? I know the Padres are the closest. I feel like New York could possibly do it with the Yankees and the Mets. I mean, God knows the Mets have a shit ton of money.
And the Mets are spending an astronomical amount of money too. They just haven't deferred as much. That's why they're behind San Diego. People can't compete with the Dodgers. Also have the most money probably right now to work with, just because of the way that now they're bringing it in with all their partnerships and sponsorships with Japan. Like the thing that they have Yamamoto and Roki now. Now we're a few years in. It's piling in, right? They just bought the Lakers too, the ownership group. Like now that's a franchise value that they can leverage and take care of the Dodgers with, right? So like they can, if they need to pay off the Dodgers, they're gonna just borrow from, like they're just going to borrow from the other team they own that has a salary cap.
It seems like they've just been smart about it and the other owners have not thought creatively and just got behind the 8 ball and now are pissed.
We're right there too. There is a level they could move towards the Dodgers. Okay. Like teams like the Braves. The Braves have a good amount of money. They're their only corp-owned team. They're the only ones with public numbers that we can find. They made like $40 million in profit last year, which isn't a ton, but like there's wiggle room. And also, it's not just money in, money in, money out every year. We got to stop making calculations like that, like as if they're like, well, we only made this much revenue last year, so now we have this much money to use for. No, these things are projected over 5-10 years. There's all kinds of debts being paid and pushed off, and loans that don't have to be paid for another. You can defer money.
There's cost that's valued on the front end because of how you tax stuff based on different things and how you can write stuff off. There's so many things in accounting. If you ever have owned a business, you know this. There's a reason the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, that car is bought and used so much in business because it hits a weight circumstance that you can write all of it off at the exact beginning that you bought it.
It's like a hauling vehicle or whatever considered because it's heavy enough.
Yeah, so what it ends up doing is you're able to write it off and then you can sell it for less than you paid for it, but you already got the tax benefit from it by buying it the year before. It's literally a crazy loophole tax shelter thing that exists.
Then you aid into the profit or revenue of your business so that then you can get it. But everyone's just trying to make it so their revenues and their expenses are zero every year on paper, so they don't have to pay any taxes. That is why we always hear corporations never pay any taxes. That's what they do. They just try to, they just try to balance their books. They're trying to make it so there is no tax burden. Because if you say you made money, you have to give some of that money to the government.
That's not to say that some companies aren't getting tax breaks from the government for certain reasons or one way or another as well.
There's that too. But and then there's just all kinds of other stuff going on. But in general, even my accountant would be, I don't want you to get a tax return. We want to break even. We want to have kept your money as long as we could have so it grows and then we'll keep you at zero. So we're not counting on getting a tax return back. That is actually the best way to do it because it stays where it can make money a little bit longer. But they extrapolate that. So just imagine when you're a billionaire and you own not just one thing, but a few things, then you start to, like movies. Are you familiar with the film industry? I'm sure. Everyone's always confused about why movies cost so much to make. Movies also do this. Studios do this. They charge themselves for things constantly in order to make the money not make sense so that they don't have to pay taxes or they don't have to say they made a bunch of money so they can just not have to make a movie again later. Like Amazon does it with AWS for Twitch. They own Twitch and AWS. They each charge each other for the services, but the same company owns all of it.
It's also so that they can then hide behind revenue numbers to not have to be like, no, we don't have to pay you this much in rev share to the actors and other people because it didn't make money. Meanwhile, you saw Mark's movie came out, right?
Yeah.
He put it down, $3 million budget. He's the only movie maker that the instant he's reached a profit, he goes, oh, now I can give the cast and crew a great bonus.
Hell yeah. I heard him talking about
Like-
that on the town, which is awesome.
That's the first reaction he had, by the way. This is live. It is recorded.
Is he hiring? Is he hiring? Work for Mark if you can.
But it's the funniest thing because Mark told me the story. He went to the union, right? And he's like, hey, I want to pay people good. I want to give them good food. I want to feed them. I want to make the set real nice and safe. Here's what my proposal. And unions are so used to having to fight tooth and nail to get things that they responded aggressively. Mark literally came to me and he's like, this is the funniest thing, but also the saddest thing. Because I came in giving them everything and they already fought for stuff that I was already giving them. They spelled out what they needed and he's like, I was already offering this. And they're like, oh, sick. Okay, great.
It's the norm. It's been normalized so much that it's constant for me. It's like, I always think this is silly. Like, I know it's normal. We still don't have to do it. Like, you don't have to. You don't have to constantly need to figure out how you're going to make a bunch of money. You can actually be like, hey, you know what? This was really awesome to make. We'll make 5% of profit. Sick. Mark also said, I listened to his interview with Bellany on the town. I think he was asking pre-sales. He's like, I think you're already making money. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do a nice bonus for the people. And he goes, and then anything extra? Like, I just want to fund another project. Great. I want to make something else. Like, my YouTube channel's huge. I make a ton of money. Like, at some point, like, you got to just be like, okay, I'm good. Like, this should just be funding all the cool stuff I want to make.
Well, this is why there's so many people out there that are like, there's no moral or ethically sound billionaire. Because to get that point, you're already squeezing people for everything they've got for the least amount you're going to pay them. If you literally cared about everyone in your organization or your business, your focus would not be how little can I pay them? It's how much do I need and how much can I pay them for the great work that they are doing? Because no offense to CEOs don't keep a business running. They may be involved in the big decisions and things like that. The people that keep the business running are the people on the ground. They're generally the foundation of a business is the lowest working class. If you're a service industry, it's the people that face the customers. If you're a retail industry, it's the people that face the customers. Once you lose that face, the company falls apart. It just truly is what it is.
If you can't take care of those people in a way, like if you don't, I'm not plugged into like what their needs are and like, and these people live a adequate life for the job that they're doing. Like, you know what I mean? Just like a normal life, which is what most people want. But like these businesses, they can't pay them that much money because they're running you're bad at doing business. It's your fault. If you can't, you have too many people, then you scale too fast. Like, it's not our fault that you went and raised a bunch of money on a dumb idea and then a bunch of guys gave you a bunch of money and then you guys all just try to force it to work. But it's not our fault. It's your fault. Imagine being able to, I don't know, manipulate your company's stock price so easily by any stupid thing you say. I'm not going to say any names here. Imagine doing that for 20 years and then forgetting how to admit that you were wrong ever. Like, this person has not been able to admit to themselves that they were wrong for 2 decades. So then what happens? Like, it just becomes you're in a different world now. And that's just kind of what happened. It all makes sense. Like, this makes sense. I think it would happen to me too if I just let it unchecked happen. It would happen to anybody. But like, it's on you to make the choice. So like, it's the same in sports. And then they look at you like, you guys don't get it. This is how it works. No, you guys made it work like this. That's different. It's not nature. It's not gravity. We didn't just appear and we're like, oh, well, this is a law. No, we made it. We actually made up money. So like, we can change anything we want if we really try hard enough. But enough people want to. We can make carrots our currency if we really tried hard enough.
I mean, the original currency was rocks. Here's a big rock. That's money now. Give me thing.
It's all silly. We're just silly children in big people bodies. That's all we're doing. You can take care of people if you want to, but it's hard to figure out what that is. I actually like the fact that unions and the commissioner's office or Major League Baseball actually can like yell at each other publicly. That's actually a good thing. That's the best way we know on how to do these things. Now, whether or not it's in good faith, that's another question. There's a long history of both sides operating in good faith and then coming to a conclusion and then it working out. That's just boring, and we don't hear about it on Twitter anymore because it's not crazy enough. So we got to hear about the crazy stuff.
Well, and it's also like the history of players making money. Like, baseball players make the most. When you're a good baseball player, you make the most. Ohtani's contract you will never see in the NBA. You will never see in the NFL, really, because of how good that union has been for players and how the negotiations weighed. And by the way, baseball still exists. So that should tell you something, that players aren't being, like, the amount they make is outrageous. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Kyle Tucker's making a ridiculous amount of money. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's crazy deal.
But that should tell you about these owners. They're still making money. Baseball wouldn't still keep going if it wasn't profitable for these billionaires. Some people, maybe it's a passion project, sure, but at the end of the day, you got to put food on the table. And if you're a billionaire, you know how to put food on the table. You're not going to crash your own wealth just because of a pet project, unless you really feel like it. Or you're really passionate about it, like Marcus would film and stuff like that. Like, he didn't expect any return for Iron Lung. The fact that it's getting a return is blowing his mind. So, but going back into baseball, when you played, were you ever in a lockout?
Yeah, 22.
What are a lot of the things that lead up to a lockout? What makes you think whether or not there's a potential lockout going to occur this season, aside from the big conversation that's happening with regard to salary cap and the way the Dodgers are spending? What goes through a player's head? What kind of happens when a lockout does occur? Or what makes you think a lockout's going to happen?
So since 1993 and 1994, which is the last baseball strike, so the difference between a strike and a lockout is the players walk out for a strike and the teams lock out the players for lockout. There has not been a major strike in professional sports since then. There's only been lockouts. I believe there's been one baseball lockout, 22-1, and I believe there was the football lockout early 2000s, maybe 04. There's been a couple lockouts.
Well, there was the ref lockout back in the late 2000s for the NFL.
Yeah, so maybe only the players. Baseball's only had one lockout since, but we've only had lockouts because basically what happened on these last strikes was we went from, just getting absolutely suppressed salaries and the revenues were starting to go through the roof to where the discrepancy was crazy and they had to strike. We'd be making $100,000 if they didn't strike. That is what changed there. Now that that's happened, players are like, we're making huge life-changing money for short periods of time. This is good. We don't have a reason to strike. There's no major, it's all small things comparatively. So then ownership is the one pulling lockout. So you start to, one of the big ways we know in baseball knockouts coming is because Rob Manfred's not very subtle and he's not a great public speaker. He says it on accident a lot. He kind of puts his foot in the mouth pretty much every time he speaks publicly, which, not everyone's good at it. I really try not to dunk on Rob all the time. I've done it enough in my life. He's a guy who's a labor lawyer. He went to college to be a labor lawyer and he took a job for the corporation, which is weird to me. I don't know,
Yeah, it's like you go and study and then you go to the opposite side because now you have insider information.
I can't wait to work for the ones with all the power. Like, that just feels weird. It is what it is. We kind of hear his rhetoric ramp up, and when economics is thrown out a lot, we know there's going to be something we're going to get to swinging. And then if you can see a big issue coming up, like our last one, to be honest, the last lockout was a little bit surprising, but I think that it was brought on because of the way that the COVID negotiations was really tough. And there was a lot of bad tastes in mouth how that was handled. Turns out like we were negotiating games. They were trying to like give reduced pay, not prorated pay, like reduced guaranteed contracts, which is like give 1 inch, it's going a mile. It's good.
Yeah.
You can't let that wiggle at all.
Well, there's a common thing. If you leave a milk out for a cat once, then it keeps coming back and more cats will show up.
Exactly. So like it's all about precedence with this.
Give a dog a bone, it'll bite you if it doesn't get one. Like, a lot of things like that.
If you just know that like the idea is to don't give Rob don't set a precedent for Rob to then exploit. That's number one of decisions. So that's why no Astros got in trouble either, because them getting immunity, if we get one Astro in trouble, where's the line for getting people in trouble for things, right? So like the PA, even though we were mad at them for doing that, we're like, if we let him do whatever he wants to them though, who knows where that will go? We don't know. And we can't let that open that door.
Well, we already saw like the crazy inspections that started happening shortly after that for like every pitcher on the mound. And like pine tar is a common major use in all of baseball. It's going to affect the baseball. It's a sticky substance. It exists. It's used for grip. Like there's a whole bunch of different things that happen. It's going to happen.
Those things need to be handled a certain way, or they could turn into bigger problems that are unrelated. Anyone who's watched politics at all, this is exactly what happens constantly. Things are just not related. 10 years down the road, it's invoked for something that has nothing to do with, like that's the type of thing you're trying to avoid. Same thing with the salary cap. When that type of stuff happens, you got to keep them from taking too much. So like in the COVID year, it was always about how many games we're going to play, Turns out Rob was going to do 60 the whole time. He was never going to accept anything more than 60 games because they knew they weren't going to be able to reduce salaries. They were going to have to do parity pay. That is all they wanted to pay, were comfortable paying was 60 of the 162 games. So that's the number was. So we were constantly just like 128 games, 110 games, 90 games, 80 games. And he was like, 60, 60, 60, 60. And we just said 60. So like, it wasn't done in good faith, even though it was presented that way. So that got to like, he's just going to do this all the time, isn't he? So then we got to lock out at the time. We started to negotiate over the pre-arb pool, like the bonus pool for guys before they get to arbitration, where you actually get to negotiate your contract, at least with the team you're on. Which Eric Kubel just had a big landmark case with that. I don't get into that, but like that was a big deal. Arbs where you first start to make real money, unless you were me. And then you just kept not making money because bad things kept happening, like COVID and getting Tommy John in your first year. All things you don't want to happen. But pre-art pool, we were like $250 million. They were like 50, or no, they were like 25. So they were 10% of our number. So I'm like, well, that's not very close together. So let's just put it this way. The players moved from 250 down to 50 and it ended at 50. So like, by all accounts, we got destroyed in that too. That all happened. And then we were kind of like, I don't like how this is. We seem to be kind of giving way more than they're giving. And they didn't really move a lot on some stuff. And then they locked us out anyways. When all of that happens, you're realizing that, oh, it's all about just putting as much pressure because they believe that players will cave early. And last time kind of did. There was a vote put on by the subcommittee. There's 8 players that kind of talk for everybody. They're in the room. Those 8 players were on 6 teams total. So 2 of them were on the Mets with me, Max Scherzer and Francisco Lindor. And they voted 8-0 to reject the final proposal that would have put us to miss games. They voted, let's just keep going. Let's miss games. This is our ace in the hole, man. That we're going to get what we want if we do this. We voted that. They're like, well, like put it to all the teams then, because this is kind of a big deal. We got to put it to all the teams. They're like, cool. We're 8-0. We told everybody we're confident. The other 24 teams voted yes, end it. So it's 24-6. And we were like, oh, crap. And I believe that is why this one is seeming very likely, because they feel like they can exert leverage and they can get what they want. Like, I don't think it matters what we come up with in the next year. I think they're not going to move on without seeing what they can get with that leverage. So it's probably going to happen at least for the offseason.
Basically, you're saying the players union gave way too much ground in COVID, and now they see the power shift that all of a sudden they can just stick to their thing and then eventually cave.
I think they just kind of, we tried to just negotiate in a traditional way, and they realized that we weren't going to change that. And so they're like, okay, we'll just string along with that. It wasn't like giving ground or like losing negotiation. It was just more like operating good faith, and I'll just keep operating good faith. And then the other side really wasn't operating good faith very much. And they're like, all we have to do is just not operating good faith. We'll get what we really close to what we want. And so when it feels like one side's playing the game, the other side is playing a different game, that you can see that as an advantage. So hopefully that gets addressed. But that's why I think we're seeing this lockout, and that's why I'm seeing it so likely, because we could solve this problem with the Dodgers. We could do that behind closed doors. You could literally just say, hey, if you're over the luxury tax, you can't defer money anymore. Their deals go away, all of them. Mm-hmm. So like, you could, but it's not really about that. It's about getting a salary cap because they want franchise values, and they're going to keep going for that. So like, that's why I think that it's inevitable, at least to a level. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to miss games, but over that offseason, the players will be locked out 100%.
Does that affects spring training when a lockout happens? Because I haven't paid as much attention, because the last time the lockout happened, I was focused on a whole bunch of other stuff. Does it affect spring training starting, the games in spring training as well, all of that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it depends on if it goes into spring training. Like last time we went into spring training, I think by like a week, like 2 weeks into spring. But once the lockout ended, they said, you have 72 hours to get to spring training. To which I said, oh yeah, well I got 96 hours. Like I just added a day. And then then my flight got canceled, so I was 2 days late. But I literally showed up 1 day late on purpose. I mean, I think they figured that out because I was just hot. I was just like, you can't just, hey guys, by the way, be here in 3 days. I'm flying across the country. You save it. I got to pack my house up.
Not to mention, it's like, there's not a heads up of, hey, this is ending.
Yeah, it just happens one day.
Flight cost. You're talking about like having to pack, who knows what's going on currently in your life because you're expecting stuff to last longer. There's a million different things that are there.
So, I mean, it's, and honestly, I'll be honest, like they were like, we get it. Like, because the individual teams are all like, we're not in charge of any of this stuff. Like, they're all just kind of collectively making the choices, and then we kind of just have to go along. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but like, there was a part of me like rebelled just a little bit, because the way this works is it's just silly. Like, it's just silly. So yeah, we all showed up. We had 3.5 weeks of spring, and then we started, and then we just rushed it, spring training, and then started the season. And then like 20% of the league got hurt. Surprise, I got hurt because I only had 3 weeks of throwing. I was like, I'm gonna throw a splitter this year. And that was super stupid. But
oh God, worst time to do that.
really, it was nasty why it worked. But that happened and we had COVID 2 years before that. It was just like one thing after another. So, but yeah, that's what it would affect. Honestly, though, Rob's MO is like, if you get 3 weeks, he thinks he's like 3 weeks is enough. And honestly, the PA has to agree to that. I'm not going to say it's all his fault, but like, yeah, everything is shortened, and then it causes ripple effects that actually affect the game for a year or two after. And that's what we got to avoid. We got to avoid missing any of spring training if we can.
Yeah. And in reality, there's a level of that when I talk about like the amount of games that the NFL played when they moved to 17 games and shortened the preseason and keep shortening the preseason. There's a couple of things that happen. There's no minor leagues really in American football that like there are in Major League Baseball. So there's like, you guys can get hurt and then they let you warm back up in the minors and then they bring you back into the majors, right? There's like a recovery period that's there. In football, when there's a shorter preseason, one, new players that are undrafted or other things get less time to showcase their abilities and are more likely to get cut, meaning veterans have a bigger advantage. And then also, much like you said, you get less time to get up to game speed. Injuries increase. It's been so fascinating looking at various sports over the years and how injuries have changed. This past season in the NFL, it's been the year of the Achilles. The ACL, it's not anything else. Like the Achilles tears have been on the rise massively. Baseball, I feel like Tommy John is always going to be a thing, but I feel like there has been a lot more. And part of me wonders because, granted, in the olden days, pitchers would pitch in entire games. There were less games, though, generally, because there were less teams, and people weren't throwing as hard or needing to throw as hard, and there weren't as many like different breaking pitches and things where you're contorting your arm. But it's always fascinated me, all the different injuries that are becoming more prevalent. I know tennis elbow was a big thing when I was playing baseball. That would happen, and so we would do certain bat trainings to try and avoid that. Like keeping both hands on the follow-through instead of going to one helped. It's always fascinating to me to think about injuries and how it relates to contracts, and then get into the end, like every aspect of the business to negotiations. And like you said, baseball players frankly have the best union that fights for their well-being, and it's been consistent. And I know there was a workers union actually, I don't remember if it was last year or a couple years back, that got discovered that the corporation was actually feeding him money under the table to vote against the workers' interests. And I always worry about that existing because of the potential for that to be done.
It's understandable that you would think that. Like, it's as simple as just like, guy needs a little bit more money. And
I don't know how you feel about sports gambling. I think it endangers players' safety in a massive way. And that's an issue in and of itself, because we already saw how angry people got about fantasy football when they didn't get the points that they needed them to win. Now you're adding money and higher stakes to it to where people are losing stuff. It's terrifying.
We've had look NBA had all their big scandals with Billups and then baseball's got Emmanuel Clase, and now there's like way more coming out about that and the number of times he did that. And
I mean, historically, we look all the way back to the Black Sox.
Yeah. I mean,
the Chicago Black Sox.
Yeah, and they weren't making any money. Like, at least back then, you're like, these guys aren't making any money. Like, we're making money, and it's being incentivized to do it. Giannis just became a stock or a stakeholder in Kalshi, which should not be legal. Like that. Oh my God! If I have to listen to the CEO of Kalshi say it's not gambling one more time with his 29-year-old face, I'm like, shut up! You didn't invent anything new, man. You're just betting, and you just happen to be doing it at a perfect time to open and make a bunch of money in a schedule. Okay? Oh, you're not a genius. People have been tried this and it was blocked before, and now we don't block anything. So that's why you're a thing. Shave it. God, Kalshi pisses me off. Trading, it's not trading. It's betting. It's betting. It doesn't matter if there's no house, if the third party's just taking a cut. Have you seen Cinderella Man or any other boxing movie where they're doing underground boxing and a guy's walking around and doing odds? That's what Kalshi is. You're not betting against him. You're betting against another person. He's just facilitating. It's bad. Like Giannis says, he keeps saying he wants to be traded. If that's a thing being traded on Cal State, I'm going to tell you, spoiler alert, it is. He now has direct control over that, and he's an owner.
And it becomes insider, almost fraudulent gambling situations.
It's insider trading. It's just blatantly insider trading, and that's not legal. Like we can technically, if I have to hear technically one more time, it doesn't mean that it should happen, guys. So. Yes, I think it's a problem. I'm not a big, I understand like how exciting it is. And I understand wanting to like do parlays or like to compete with your buddy. But like long term, it's especially for like dudes who are like 18 years old who see this as a job or something. Like it's not going to end well.
Not even that. You're talking about kids that get the opportunity to go to college for the first time on a scholarship, to be able to do something and provide for their family, especially now with people to use their rights, which also is out of control in the sense of how that was written. Dude, I wrote a paper on pay for play and why pay for play was bad and how you needed to give them the rights of the students, but also the NCAA needed to change from 1 year renewable. I have a whole thing about how to fix the problem, and they just absolutely just
both.
Yeah.
Like, we went from the super strict to nothing. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
We literally went back to the way it was before the NCAA existed, where players could easily just switch teams from the week to week because they were getting paid more to go somewhere else. That's literally how it was before the NCAA and organizing bodies existed in college sports. Oh my God, dude, I could rant on this forever. It's also phenomenal to talk to another sports knower. This is going to be the episode where people are going to be like, if they're not sports knowers, they're going to be like, I don't know what's happening right now. Their numbers are going everywhere. But this has been like, this is something I haven't had in a long time. And it's great because you know a lot more than I do about the ins and outs of baseball and how this works. And it's so great to be learning again. And then at the same time, have a discussion about the intricacies that exist within the business of sport.
Well, I'm glad to. I love talking about it too. I don't know if you can tell. It's always good to be able to, especially like because I've done a lot of research on other sports now too, to make comparisons because I just constantly am getting like back to back. But what about the NBA and the NFL? Like I understand you guys like watching those two sports. I understand you like watching them, but they're not better. Like they're not doing any of the stuff better. There's no proof. So like it's not a good. You just like don't like watching baseball as much. Doesn't mean that there's no parity. That just means that you don't like baseball as much. But yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you like having me on and let me. I like ranting too. So like whenever, man. Yeah, hell, you got my number now. Just so we can text rant if you want.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I see the yelling that's happening on Twitter between the users, I'll be like, hey. No, but thank you so much for coming on. I hope everyone who's been listening, everybody who's been watching, has learned a lot about this. This is the part of the show where I give the floor to our guest, Trevor. Shout out where people can find you, what projects you're working on, what cool things are going on. We talked about your Dinger video and all the stuff before. Go watch that, by the way. He'll tell you where. Trevor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a YouTube channel. It's Trevor May Baseball. That is where I host a live show every Wednesday and Friday at noon in relation with Foul Territory Network, who has a lot of different baseball shows on it. And we just get into the news. I do deeper dives just like we just did and present my findings. I also do a lot of original videos like going and seeing if I can hit home runs in big league parks. Got a lot of stuff coming out there too. I have a series where I'm trying to throw 100 again before my 37th birthday, which is this year. At which I will probably not try this anymore. So you can follow along, watch me get back in shape. That'll also be there too. We have a Substack, IamTrevorMay.com. We do articles and bonus videos there if you're interested in that. Mayday, the podcast, that's my show. There, you can listen to audio versions of it. That's everywhere you listen to podcasts. Man, I got a lot going on. And we'll leave it there. There's a bunch of YouTube projects, bringing on some new people, moving into a new studio space, doing a pitching lab where we're gonna do a bunch of content around. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But you can follow along at Trevor May Baseball. That's the best place to find me.
And last thing, before we finish it off, it is the title of the podcast, Go My Favorite Sports Team. So I want you to name your favorite sports team that you follow. It could be a player. Maybe there's a player that you're friends with that you're really rooting for. Go ahead and lay it out there. Who is your favorite sports team or player or both right now?
Let's go Seahawks, baby. Perfect time. World champions for the second time, dude. What a game. What a game to watch. Loved it. Love it when my city can win something. I live in Seattle, by the way, if anyone didn't know that. So go Seahawks.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. Again, go check out Trevor and all that he does. If you want to get some merch, store.gmfst.com exists. There might be some new products out. Maybe we have a new hat. Who knows? Also, if you want to give us episode suggestions, ideas, speak on news, have comments about this that you want to add, or questions you have for Trevor, reddit.com/r/gmfst, and maybe we can answer them for you. That's going to do it. Bye, everyone.